Good evening, everyone. I'm glad we're back. Monday night, second Monday of the month. I see different people here. Welcome, everyone. I see old friends in the back. Haven't seen you in a long time. That's good. And I don't know if there's anyone online now, but if there is, welcome as well. So we're here to start once again. It's once a month, every second Monday, we have the meeting in English. And tonight I'm going to be here talking about a topic on the gospel according to Spiritism. But before that, Mariana will come up here and talk to us about this message on the book Our Daily Bread. Let's remember it correctly, if I'm not mistaken, or something similar to that. Number 140. But before that, let's just focus a little bit more than we've been already, and raise our thoughts and our hearts and open up our minds to God, to the good spirit, so that they can bless us even more by saying and thanking them for the opportunity of being here tonight to receive the blessings through the friendship of our friends, the ones who are here physically, but also from the ones who are on the spiritual realm, to thank God for the opportunity of being alive and of enjoying this life and living through it, through our happinesses, our failures, our difficulties, but also the opportunity that we have to grow spiritually, physically, mentally, psychologically. So may tonight's topics be able to come into our minds and our hearts, find something that we are and that we have, and change it for the better, so that when we leave here tonight, we leave a little lighter, with our head more clearer, so that we can see the world as it really is, and not as we tend to see when we are kind of sick and we are kind of down. So, dear God, help us raise our heads, raise our spirits, so that we can see light and love wherever we are. May your love be with us, not only now, but always and always. So be it. So, as I said before, let's invite Mariana. She's going to talk to us about the book Our Daily Bread, and then after her, I'll be back here.
Thank you, Mac. Good evening, everyone. Today we're going to read a passage on Our Daily Bread, written by Chico Xavier by the Spirit of Emmanuel. Lecture number 140, with the title, Let Us Remember Correctly. Remember my chains. Paul wrote that on his letters to the Colossians 4:18. And Emmanuel comes to tell us this. In the customary childish reflections, the believers only remember the luminous aura of the spirits formerly sacrificed on earth. Many imagine they will find them easily far away from beyond the grave, in order to receive precious remembrances from them. They consider the heavens as a brilliant resting place in the immensity of the cosmos. How many will only remember Paul at his glorification? Meanwhile, in this observation to the Colossians, the great apostle exhorts his friends to remember the prisons, as if to say that the disciples should not maintain their thoughts in the foresight of celestial facilities, but rather seriously reflect upon the proper work required to achieve the divine kingdom. The request of sublime spirituality also has its venues. It is indispensable to travel through them. Before fixing our sight on the brilliant crown of the faithful apostle, let us meditate on the thorns and wands, their foreheads. Paul was able to achieve these culminations, but how many assaults from the whips, racks, and irony did he have to bear while attempting to the teachings of the Christ as he scaled the mountains? Do not notice so lightly the superiority manifest in these and those to whom you concentrate admiration and respect. Do not forget to imitate them, attempting them yourselves to the sacrification services to which they devoted themselves in order to reach the divine end. Um, let's remember correctly. This passage is to remind us every day that every single one of the, not only the apostles, but also Jesus Christ, they suffered. It wasn't always flowers and perfumes and good things on their pathways. There was also a lot of suffering. There was also a lot of crying. There was also a lot of harm that was done to them, not only to their souls, but also to their physical bodies. Jesus Christ had a crown on his forehead that was, it was going through his skull. How painful can that be? He was he was whipped. It was so many things. This is our number one example. Paul was in prisons, he was in chains, he was whipped, he was beaten, he was a lot of things happened to them. But if we think a little bit more to what we have today, not today, but we had a few years ago, Chico Xavier, when he was only a child and he used to live with his godmother because his mother died and his father couldn't take care of all of the kids. They were each sent to a different house, and he was sent to to his godmother's house, and she used to poke this little child with a fork on his belly every single day. Every time she thought he was doing something wrong. When his father went to grab him back from her because he got married again, and he reached their house, he showed his, actually, he didn't show, his stepmom saw on her own all the scars that he had and the bleeding of his belly because it was bleeding. She was stabbing this poor kid with a fork every single day. Look at all he's been through. And not only that, when he was older and he was trying to help out, he was trying to do something to others. There was always somebody there to do him wrong, to say no, he's not real, he's false. There was always people trying to, hi Isabel. There was always people trying to somehow hurt him. And then we have Mother Teresa. She been through a lot too. This woman had only two changes of clothes. Gandhi went through so much. This guy went through so much. He didn't eat. He put himself through a starvation for a long time just to prove something, just to show that there's a better meaning. And here we are, just focusing ourselves, just focusing our thoughts, thinking that we're going to get to heaven and we're going to get to see all of them. And we're going to say, hey, buddy, yes, you did so good. Thank you for all your teachings. Let's have some grapes together. We're not going to go to heaven and sit down and have grapes and listen to harps. That's not what's happening. Spirits like that, spirits who we are trying to achieve. We are trying to get to the same progress that they were many, many years ago. Spirits like that still works. They have done so much and they still have a lot to do. And we're so lazy thinking that we're going to get there and we're not going to do anything. We're so lazy for thinking that. We are so selfish that we think that we are actually better than them because they're still working and we're thinking we're all right, I'm done. I did my duels, I'm done. This is it. And this is what Emmanuel is telling us of our childish reflections of how we think heaven is going to be a place where we're going to rest. Heaven is going to be the place where we're going to work so we can deserve, so we can be better, so we can prove ourselves and we can get ready to come back here and try it again because we keep failing over and over again. So let's remember the chains that Paul was in. Let's remember all of the bad things he did too, because he did a lot before he was a saint. He did a lot of bad things and he paid for those things. What makes us believe that we're not here to pay? We're going to pay for everything we did many years ago. We still have our chains. We are carrying our chains. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that we are here for a reason. Let's try to remember that and try to be more grateful that we're paying in such better ways. We're not paying with our lives anymore. They had to pay with their lives. Every single one of them. All the apostles did. They all went through a very tough time. They all got whipped. They all got hurt on physically and mentally. And we're so lucky that we can profound our beliefs. We can speak about Christ. We can do all of this without being harmed, without having to go to prison for it, without having to die for it. They all did. That's it. Let's. I'm not going to say any longer because Mac has a lot to tell us tonight. Right, Mac? Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mariana, once again. It was really good. Let us remember that. We are so, in so many ways, we are so blessed, and we keep forgetting how how many blessings we have these days. You know, I can remember my dad telling me that when he was young and he was going to school, and he would bring either the Gospel according to Spiritism or the Spirit's book, and it was like crazy. It was insane of people like getting rid of him, not getting close to him just because he had a book in his hand. Well, it's not that it doesn't happen today, but it's completely different. I mean, and we're getting better and better and better at this. So it's really, when we remember, I mean, what Paul went through, what Peter went through, and all the other apostles, and as Mariana was remembering here, Gandhi and all of the some other people, like he was killed because of peace. You know, even people who have, are not religious, and they don't like profess any specific religion, like John Lennon, for example, right? He had his almost his mistakes and his stuff, like everyone does. But then all of a sudden, he starts talking about imagine the world without violence, without war. Let's bring peace more. to all of us, and then all of a sudden he gets killed because of it, right? It's such a it's such a we still have so much to grow on that front, that it's amazing. But it's also amazing how far we already got. We still have a lot to go, a lot to overcome. But I guess that if we want, we can get even better with time. And tonight, I mean, it's going to be not precisely the same idea, but we're going to talk about something that can be related to this. We're starting today with chapter 11 of the Gospel according to Spiritism, and this is one of the covers. For those who are online, there's a cover right here, and and for you here, there's this cover, but there are other covers with some with the same translation, some with different translations, like with every book that was written in a different language. And tonight we're starting, as I said, chapter 11 from the Gospel according to Spiritism, and the title of the chapter is "Love Your Neighbor as Yourself." That's the title of the chapter, and we're going to talk about the initial items, which go from items 1 to 4, and the title of this small section of the chapter is called The Greatest Commandment. And what Kardec does here in the beginning is he grabs a few pieces or a few passages from the Bible, usually from the New Testament, and then he, after putting them here for us to read and take knowledge, then he makes a comment at the end. And that's usually how he starts all the chapters, and it's very interesting because he shows us um, what concepts we can take from those passages. These days, we live in a culture where, and we've been seeing this more and more often. We've been hearing this more and more often, and it's to me, it's a little worrisome, but it's what we've been experiencing, what people are calling the cancel culture, right? We see someone that does something that a lot of people or some people don't agree, then we cancel that person, right? As if, and that's my worry here, as if we are perfect, as if we don't make the same mistakes, as if we really should be doing this to someone else. It can be hurtful, it can be damaging, it can be very dangerous in a lot of different ways. I'm not going to talk about cancel culture, but it's very related to what we're going to talk here tonight. Because, and I'm going to read because I think it's very important. I'm not going to read the whole thing, and I every time I speak here, I always say that people should take the the items, maybe take note and read it by themselves, because I'm giving my take, as Mariana just read here, and she gave her take on the text. And we're not here to say that the only version or the only way to think about this topic is the way that I'm saying. No, there's so many different interpretations. We can go so many different ways. Not that we will not get to the same point. We may all get to the same point or very close, but then sometimes we have an idea that you can understand better than her. And maybe it's not the way I say it, it doesn't make sense. But then you read it and said, "Oh, I know now what you." I think you get what I'm saying. Some people, when they watch a movie or when they read a book, they take different things from that book. They will remember different passages. They will remember different stories. They will remember different parts of the book. So that's why I always invite people to not not only listen here, but get the book and read the passage, so that to see if you can get even more from that. So the items that Kardec he takes from two different books in the Bible. One is Matthew and the other one is Luke. But from Luke he only takes one small sentence. Most of it he takes from the book of Matthew, and he takes similar passages that Jesus said in different times throughout his time here, and then when Jesus told someone a story. Why am I saying? Why did I initially talked about the cancellation culture or the cancel culture? Because it's the idea of the first and greatest commandment. So I'm going to read this passage and then I'm going to explain or at least get into a little bit more in the cancel culture based on what we're going to read here. Then I'm going to read this passage. It's in Matthew 22, 34 to 40. And then, but when the Pharisees is a group of people, they were Jews, and then they were getting close to Jesus. Jesus was also a Jew. We always have to remember this. Jesus was not a Christian. Jesus was a Jew. He had a different view of a specific set of rules, and that's very important, very very important to the idea of the cancel culture that I'm going to talk in a few seconds. So the Pharisees, which were Jews similar to Jesus, not exactly the same, but similar to Jesus, heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees. So the Sadducees is another group of Jews that came to Jesus before, tried to get Jesus into like a see if he would contradict himself, and Jesus uh, taught them something, and then they said, "Oh, this guy knows a little bit more than what we thought he knew." So they went away. But the Pharisees said, "Okay, now we are going to get him. The other group couldn't get him, but I'm going to." You know, when you're in a, I don't know if you had a teacher in when you're going to school. I had a teacher like this. He would come and say, when he gets to talk to us, he would say, "I know that there are some of you that think that you are very smart. And I know that you have a question right in your pocket that all of a sudden you're going to pull it out and try to get me to it, try to make me fall. I invite you to do it right now." And, and so that he would take this thing out of the way. Because, there are students that are very, try to, pick this to see if the teacher knows what he's talking about. So they would come out with questions. So those were the Sadducees and the Pharisees. Jesus was the teacher. So the Pharisees came to Jesus and said, he wanted to know if Jesus really knew what he was doing. So he came to Jesus and said, then one of them, who was a lawyer, so not only he was a Pharisee, but he was a lawyer. And a lawyer, of course, is different than what it is today, but it has a similar idea. He knew the laws. That's what the lawyer was. He knew the laws. He knew the book from A to Z. He knew everything, or he thought he knew everything. Yeah, he knew the words, exactly. So he tested Jesus. He knew the words. That's a good one. Tested him with a question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? That's the title of our talk tonight. It's the greatest commandment. So he comes to Jesus and says, hey, JC, right? He was Jesus Christ, JC, hashtag JC, right? And then Jesus replied, right? What is the greatest commandment? And Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. So that's what he answers. So he's giving the basic answer to it. But Jesus doesn't stop there. He goes one step further. Maybe to see if the other guys knew what they were talking about. And here is a second one, which is like the first. So he makes a connection between the greatest one and something that was said before that is very similar. It's like this one. So it is as if he's trying to say, look, this is the greatest. But I don't think you quite got it. I don't think you really understood what it is. So here I'm going to tell you something that's similar that you need to follow as well. So he says, love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments, and then he finishes it. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So he says, here's the first one. This is the greatest one of all. Love your God above everything else. But here's the second one, which is similar to this one. And on these commandments, all the law and everything that was said before are inside these two commandments. That's how he teaches them. And of course, that's how he is teaching us. So it's love God, love your neighbor, love the others as you love yourself. So it's kind of three different types of love, if we can call it types of love, and they're all linked together. They are not separate. It is as if Jesus is saying, you cannot fully love God until you learn to love yourself and love your neighbors. There is no loving God if I don't love all my neighbors and if I don't love myself. There's no loving God. We cannot love God above everything else if I don't do the other parts. It is as if I wanted to learn, um, I don't know, to learn in math, for example. Math is always what comes to my mind, as if I want to learn how to do a square root of something or multiply numbers without knowing what is to add to numbers. It's a step. So it's not complete until I know all the steps, until I really get it. So that's how Jesus comes to them, and then they say, it is almost as if he's saying, okay, when you came to me, what was your intention? You came to me to learn, or you came to me to pull me down? Now, with my teaching, I'm showing you that you did wrong, and then you got back what you wanted to give me. Because they wanted to bring Jesus down. With what Jesus just taught them, they were the ones that fell. So it is something that goes back and forth. It is what we call reciprocity, right? We do it and then it happens back. I don't know if you know, um, um, when we play tennis, right? Or when we see people playing tennis, I don't play tennis, but when we see people playing tennis, we hit the ball goes to the other side, then someone hits the ball back, and then I get the ball here, right? But tennis is a competition, right? The idea is I have to force the other one to make a mistake. And then he makes a mistake, and then I get the point. But if we are living in a society that the idea is not a competition all the time, the idea is a collaboration, the sport will not be tennis. I don't know if you've ever played this, but where I come from, we had I used to live near beaches, and we would go to the beach with rackets, like tennis rackets, and a ball. Not necessarily a tennis ball because it has like that cloth that makes it heavy when it hits the water, so it's more like a rubber ball. And then we hit the ball for the other person. The other person hits the ball back to me, and the idea is not to make the other person make a mistake. The idea is the more time the ball is in the air, it's better for the group. So we try to hit the ball in a way that's easy for the other person to pick the ball so that he can hit the ball for me, and then I can hit the ball to the other one, and then the game continues. So it's a collaboration. So if we want to live in a collaborative life, that's how we should do it. Offer someone what I want them to offer me, so that we can live a better life for us together, and not a competition where I want the other one to fall so that I can win. I saw a video the other day where a teacher posted this video, and he says, I wish we lived in a society where it happens what happened in my class today. And then he was filming the game that they were doing. It was like young kids, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 years old, and they had to run and get to a, I don't know, to a cone or whatever in the end, right? And he films only the end. So one of them got first, then the other, right? But the one that got first and then started to celebrate that he won. So what happened was when he won, the one that lost ran to him and hugged him, happy with him. And then everyone that was on the side, they all ran to the one that won, and everybody embraced themselves. And then he posted this video and said, how wonderful would it be if we could live this way, even though it's a competition sometimes, but we wouldn't need to be, oh, you won and I lost, and you'll be happy, or you'll be sad because you lost. No, you're happy because the other one won, because if one win, everybody wins. And then when Jesus says this to the Pharisees, and we are closer in a certain way to the Pharisees than to Jesus, we cannot think of ourselves as Jesus. It's really like out of the mind to think of ourselves as something closer to Jesus. So the Pharisees came to Jesus and tried to tempt him or tried to bring him down. How many times do we do something like this to other people? Not necessarily in the same way, but how many times do I not cheer when someone loses something? When someone is unhappy because they did something wrong, and then instead of having mercy or being unhappy because they are also unhappy, we are happy to say, "Oh, he deserved it," and then we go down with the other one instead of going up higher. Is this the way that we want it to be, to feel if I lost and then everybody would look down at me? So what Jesus is trying to tell the Pharisees is, okay, you think that you know what to love God is, but you clearly don't know yet. And that's what he's trying to teach us. We clearly still don't know what loving God is. And even with this idea of loving yourself as loving the other, we sometimes um, distort the vision. We sometimes take the focus out of the other and put the focus on me. And I've heard this so many times. And I worried about this not because of the others. Every single one of us know about our lives. We decide what we do, we decide how we want to do it. It's not about judging others. It's about the worry about myself. Is when people say love the others as you love yourself, then people start to say, okay, so you need to love yourself before to love the others. And then all of a sudden, depending on how deep this thought goes, we start to become more self absorbed. I need to love myself. And what is it to love yourself? Sometimes this ends up ending in being more selfish, in thinking more about myself. So actually, we have to try, in my view, we have to try to find a minimum balance of what is to love yourself and what is to love the others. And I'm going to give just to cite three examples that Mariana just cited here: Chico Xavier, Madre Teresa, Mother Teresa, and Gandhi. Two are Christians from different religions, and one is not a Christian. What is to love yourself in the case when we take Gandhi's example? He decided not to eat to bring peace to a whole country. Not eating, is it loving yourself? How selfish it is. People would say, "Oh, I would never do this because I'm not loving myself." How difficult it is for a person to give everything that she has, or for me or for us, everything that we have. And like Mariana said here, only had two sets of clothes, two, because she couldn't see that if she had more than two, she would be wasting one that she could give to someone else that needed more than her. How is this loving yourself? So she's loving the others. And of course, I'm citing examples that are kind of out of our normal thought process. But we have to have these in our minds for us not to fall into the other side of the spectrum, which is love myself more than loving the others. You know what I mean? Do you understand that we need to find a balance in between? One day, maybe we'll be able to do what Chico Xavier did. None of his books, zero of his books, no money ever came to him. All the rights for all the books, all the publications would go to all the bookstores and to the Spiritist Center who would produce and sell. He would get absolutely nothing. And he died without 1 cent in his name, if not for what he worked, because he worked. He didn't. We when we talk about Chico Xavier, usually we talk about the books that he wrote, how the good that he did to other people, but we forget that he had to work from 8 hours or 9 or 10 hours a day to support himself and his family, and that's where he got his money from, to support himself. After these hours, he would work for the others because he needed to support himself. Then one day he retired, has his income from the retirement, just like everybody that works and saves money. That's what he used to live. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure that some of this money he would donate to other people who needed more than what he thought he would need. So he was not thinking about himself. In this sense, he was thinking about the others most of the time. So when we have to be very, very careful when we start to go into the idea of, oh, I need to learn to love myself before I start to learn to love others. No, to my understanding, it's a process of, if you still don't know how to love yourself, start loving the others, because you will learn how to love yourself by loving the others, by looking at the others, seeing that they need more than what you need, so you go do it for him. Then all of a sudden you start realizing that we can do it even more and more and more and more. It's just a thought, but it's an idea. And so that we don't fall under that idea. Oh, I have to say, uh, if I say, um, I have to say yes to myself sometimes. And then all of a sudden, I'm not saying yes to myself sometimes. I'm saying yes to myself all the time and no to the others all the time, because I always come first. You know what I mean? So we have to really try to balance this out. Otherwise, we're going to be, although we kind of think that we are doing something, all of a sudden I'm doing something way more to myself than way more than to the others. So we have to be careful with this. And that's what Jesus is trying to teach the Pharisees, and that's what Jesus is, in my view, is trying to teach us. Say, and pay attention that what I mentioned was myself and the others. I didn't even put loving God above everything, because I would need to start from here. But since we don't know what it is, we really kind of don't understand what is loving God above everything. It's hard to understand what it is, because we still have the idea that God is a person, or that God is someone that's waiting for us to do something for him, or that he's demanding my love. I know I hear sometimes people saying, what kind of God wants everybody to love him? So that's a misunderstanding of what the idea is. Because why? Because we still don't understand what is to love God above everything. I think that Haroldo Dutra Dias, in one of his lectures, he said something that stuck to my mind, that that is, to me, was very revealing in that sense of what it means, at least to start the thought process of what is to love God above everything. He said that there's this example that he heard once, and then he says, what we love is what we become. He said that he heard this from a lecture of a Jewish person. That what we love is what we become. So, and then he says, pay attention. A person that is addicted to alcohol, and then starts drinking, and drinking. All of a sudden, all his body, all the person's body, he start to become alcohol. The body starts to change. The liver starts to liquefy. If you measure your blood, it's full of alcohol all the time. Your speech starts to become like fluid, like alcohol. A person that loves money, that has this, everything to that person is money. Everything that he does, everything that is money. He sees money, everything. Like, time is money. Oh, that chair. Oh, I can't do this. So everything is money. You start to become the possessions. So now imagine if we really start to love God, we will become God. But not because I want to be God. Because a person that drinks a lot doesn't want to become alcohol. He becomes because he loves alcohol. So it's not the process of I want to be alcohol, but it's I want to be with alcohol all the time. And that process turns me into that. If I start to want to be with God all the time, everything in me will start to change. That's why it's the greatest commandment. It's not that God wants me to love him or wants me to love her if I see God as a woman. No, it's not that process. It's the process of the more I do something, the more I become that something. And if that something is good, the more I become better. The more I do it, the more I'm involved with it, I become better and better and better and better. So, and this is not the whole thing. Of course, it is not. But it is a way of thinking about this love of God, of something that we need or we should want to achieve one day. Oh, it would be so good if I could achieve this. So how many times have we said something like, "Oh, I wish I was that person." I remember when I was growing up, like very young, and my dad would be talking about Chico Xavier, and he would say something about him, or would say, "Oh, these books, he wrote these books," and so on. And then he said, and then one day I said, "Oh, I wish I were Chico Xavier." And this happened here in the center too, when we were teaching the kids. And oh, I wish we were Chico Xavier. And then my dad looks at me and says, "Oh, so what are you thinking?" And that's the funny part. What are you thinking when you're saying that you want to be Chico Xavier? And said, "Oh, he writes all these books. He writes all this." So, do you know how many diseases he has? Do you know how many problems he has? Do you know what does he need to do to write all these books? And I said, "Oh, I don't want to be Chico Xavier anymore." right? Because it is as if we just want the results without doing whatever we need to do to get there, right? Oh, I want to. Everybody wants a pill to lose weight, for example, right? Oh, let's just drink this and everything, right? And we all know that it doesn't happen like this. Everything comes with a process, and we have to go through the process to get there, right? If I want to become a lawyer, if I want to become a driver, if I'm everything comes with the process to get there. So when Jesus comes to us and he asks us or invites us to think about the greatest commandment as being picked by the Pharisees, he's telling us, hey, it's a lot of work. It's not just words. It's not just something that came out of the law. Everything is that the law said and the prophet said. You can resume these things in these three commandments. Love God above everything. Love your neighbors as you love yourself. All the laws and all the prophets are what the word he uses, hang on these two commandments, hang all the law and the prophets. Everything that was said, you can resume with these, not reduce or reduce to these two commandments. And um, that's one another thing. And I'm going to just open up a parenthesis here. So now I'm going to talk about the cancel culture. What Jesus said here, it's not, well, he is speaking. He is saying to those who asked him. Mariana came to me, asked me a question, I'm answering Mariana. But those words, despite I am the one saying, it was not his words. It was not him that created. He didn't create those words. Those words were and are in what we call the Old Testament. So I took note here just to explain something and talk about cancel culture. When you get the Bible, and you get the New Testament, you open up in a passage. I'm going to open up in this passage, chapter 22 of Matthew, verses 34 to 40. So I'm going to open it up here. I marked the page so it's easy to find. 22, verses 34 to 40. I'm going to read just two sentences here. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. Right after this, and if you can see it here, there are words in red and words in black, right? Can you see that? Or is there anyone daltonic here? No, maybe. Right? So, words in red and words in black. The words in red in this Bible specifically were Jesus that said. The words in black are the narration, and Jesus said, it's in black. Then what he says is in red, so that we can see what he said, right? Right after he says something, if what he said is in the Old Testament, there's a letter or an asterisk saying, okay, this is in the Old Testament. So he comes and says, I'm going to read it again. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. There's a letter B. So you go to the bottom of the page. Letter B says, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. So what Jesus is quoting here, is saying here, is in the Old Testament, in a book that we call the Deuteronomy. And if you go back there to the Deuteronomy chapter 6, item 5, I'm going to read it here. Item 5, chapter 6. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. So Jesus didn't create this. It's there in the Old Testament. The next sentence, he says, this is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. The second one is similar to the other one, is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Right after this, letter C. Letter C, you go to the bottom of the page, it says Leviticus, which is another book in the Old Testament, Chapter 19, verse 18. Chapter 19, verse 18. So I have it here, my yellow tab, so it's easy to find. What did I say? 1918. 1918. It's a piece of it. I'm going to read the whole thing. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against one of your people. That's how it starts. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against one of your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. So Jesus is just quoting the laws. However, everyone that ever heard some people that are against Christianity or don't like Christianity or don't like the Bible for whatever reason, it doesn't matter, will hear people saying bad things about the Old Testament. My take on this is the following, as I started this talk. If a person does something bad, should I cancel that person because the person does something bad? And what about the good things that the person does? Am I perfect? Do I only do good things all my life, every time? Am I better than what we think that Jesus was? Or if I don't take Jesus as an example, but I take someone else, am I better than that person? Really? How many people have we seen in real life, physically with us in our day-to-day, talk or on TV, saying something and then doing something different? How many times have I done this? I say something here to you and then I go out and then I do something different. But then now we have this cancel culture, because when I see a person doing something wrong, then that person, it's like, came from here, now he's the worst devil that could ever be on earth. It's what we did, it's what we do when we don't like something or someone, then we tend to just cancel it. It will end up being that we will not be able to talk to anyone nevermore, because everybody will need to be canceled at one point. Every single one. Gandhi, to cite Gandhi again, he says, an eye for an eye, which was an old law, right? An eye for an eye, and everyone will be blind. Everyone one day will be blind. If we really stick to the law. But what happens is, and then I remember here Animal Farm, which is a great book to read, a great opening up the eyes. It says, everybody's equal, but some are more equal than others. What? Yep. If you're on top of the chain, you're equal to the top of the chain. You can do whatever you want to the ones who are below you. We're not equal anymore. But everybody started equal. But then all of a sudden, because I got better at this, or because I got more money, or because now I'm equal, but not as equal as I was before. And that's a cynic, right, way of trying to cancel the others, because now I know better, I know more. Now I am a spiritist, so I'm better than the others. What? No, no. If there's something, it's I'm worse than the others. Because if we really believe that when we get to know Spiritism a little more, we know a little more. And the more we know that we need to know more. And the more we know that we need to know more, the more we realize how wrong we are and how wrong we were. A kid that makes a mistake in his exam or in his homework is allowed to do the mistake because he is learning. But if I've been to that class before and I'm in a class that's 1 year ahead and I do the mistake, then I'm going to be looked in a different way because I know more and I shouldn't be doing that. So if being a spiritist should bring us the feeling of being better than someone, there's something that we still didn't understand. There's something that we still need to learn more. So the idea of canceling, to me, is the opposite of what we should learn to love your neighbor as yourself, or the greatest commandment, or the idea that for us to live in a better society, we need to learn to adjust and do for the others as you would want them to do to you. Even I found these great images, and you've probably seen it before. You know, you have a community of monkeys, and then you see like 3 or 4 or 5 monkeys, one behind the other, taking the fleas and the dirt from the back of the others. And then there's one taking from this, and then there's one taking from this, there's one taking from this. And if you do a circle, they will all be taken out of everybody. There was this other picture that I found it really to be really, really interesting. It's like there's this elephant, and then there's lots of zebras around, and then there's this kind of a lake or just a a place where there's some water there, right? So some of the zebras are drinking the water, right? And the elephant just is spraying water on top of the zebras. It's like giving a shower, right? Showering the zebras. We're all helping each other. We live in a world where we need to help each other. If we don't do that, we are we are saying that we could survive by ourselves. And that's just not true. Oh, I could live all by myself. I could. No. Well, if you go to the store to buy anything, that's it. You you just showed yourself that you can't live by yourself.
Gandhi says, "Be the change you like to see."
Yeah, yeah. If we want to change, we want to start from within. That's what it is. So um, I said that I was going to read more stuff from here, but you'll notice that I just read one. I just read item number 1. There's item 2, 3, and 4, and there's not enough time to do anything else. But I'm going to read to invite you to read the rest. I'm going to read the last sentences that Kardec says, because this is what he takes out of all he wrote here, or he grabbed from the Bible. And he says, the practice, the practice of these maxims, which are the maxims: love your neighbor as yourself, do to others what you want them to do to you. It's not wait for the others to do so that you do back. No, it's do first. We have to take the first step. So that's what he says. The practice of these maxims leads to the destruction of selfishness. We will not be thinking of us before. We will do first. We will do first. We will do first. When they have been adopted as the rule of conduct, as the base of all institutions, of everywhere, which of course it's kind of an utopian way of thinking, but that's what we should aim. Even if we don't get there, that's what we should aim. Then man, or mankind, or humankind, will understand true fraternity, and so make it possible for peace and justice to reign on this planet. There will be no more hate nor dissensions, but only union, concordance, and mutual benevolence. So if we start from ourselves, be the change, like Mariana said, be the change that you want to see in the world. It's one, but it's one that's important. And if we infect another, it's two. And then we start infecting others. To finish it up, one very, very famous story, short story. The boy is at the beach looking at the sand, and there's a man coming down, and he looks at the boy, and the boy is picking up something and throwing. He doesn't know what's going on. So he comes and gets close to the boy, and he sees what the boy is doing. He's getting a starfish, and then he looks at the starfish and throws into the water, and then gets another one and throws into the water. Then the man comes to him and says, "What are you doing?" So, oh, if the starfish stays here, it will dry out and it will die. So I'm throwing it into the water. And the man looks at him and said, "Oh, but have you looked around? Have you seen how many starfish there are?" And he said, "Yeah, that's right. Yeah." And then the boy comes down, picks up another one, looks at him and said, "Oh, but this one will survive." And then he throws it. And then the man looks down, grabs one, and throws into the water. We can look at this in many different ways, but it's the idea of a glass half full or half empty. What is our take on life? What should we do? What is my so do unto others? Do, that's the commandment. It's not expect for the others to do. No, it's do. It's action. It's being proactive, as people say. Is start doing it. Start doing it. Whatever the consequence, it's the consequence. It's not up to me. But I have the necessity. I need to do it if I really want to understand one day what it is to love God above everything, love the others, then love yourself. And with this, we get to the end, which is not the end, it's just the mere beginning. Once again, invite everyone to read chapter 11, items 1, 2, 3, 4 of this chapter. Next month, we'll be back on the second week of May with the continuation of the chapter. Hopefully, you all be here. This Saturday, we will be celebrating here at Cantinho 20 years of this Spiritist Center. I was not here in the beginning, but I've been here for about 16 years. So I'm glad that I'm participating in the 20th anniversary. Adriana was here almost in the beginning. I don't know if she was here in the very first day 20 years ago, but this year is going to be, well, this weekend actually, it's the 20th anniversary of Cantinho de Luz. So you're all invited to come. We're going to have not a big celebration, but we're going to have a special night with dinner. Flavia will be here. We invited some friends to come from different Spiritist centers. So hopefully we will see a lot of people to celebrate, really just to embrace everyone, and hopefully we'll all be here. So it's the beginning of another 10 years, and then 10 years and 10 years, and we go year by year, day by day, working, and right. So that this will be this Saturday, this next Saturday. So with this, let's do our final prayer. And are we done after the prayer? Everything is all set. Oh, we did the passes? Okay, so we do the passes right after this. So let's do the prayer so we can finalize, and I finalize, and I can close our online view. Thank you, everyone who is watching now and in the future. Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's really a pleasure to be here and talking to all of you. And with this, let's thank God, thank our dear Master Jesus for his words, for his thoughts, for his teachings that fill our hearts, fill our souls, with hope that He has on us, and with the trust that He puts on us to make this world a better place, starting from within with His help and the help of our friends who are incarnated here, but also with the help of the ones who are surrounding us. May your blessings be with us, with our family, and may your love follow us wherever we go, so that we can spread this love also wherever we are. May your love, your peace be always with us. So be it. So right now let's go to the passes, and then after that we will. Oh, so it starts at 7. It's our regular meeting, and we're going to be here starting at 6, but the meeting starts at 7, and we're going to have Flavio Zanetti will be here, and we're going to have poetry. Hopefully, we will have someone to play some songs for us. We're working on it. If it happens, it will be good. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But we will be happy to be here. It will be a very 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 nice night from 7 p.m.